The night the stars fell, Marcus Harrington was alone, just as he'd been for the past 3 years since leaving NASA and everything else behind. The remote cabin at the edge of the New Mexico desert suited him, a place where the brilliant night sky reminded him of dreams he'd once had without the painful company of those who still chased them. The impact rattled his windows, a flash of brilliant light cutting across the darkened horizon. His first thought was meteor, his second was classified military test, but his curiosity, the one part of the scientist he could never fully abandon, pushed him into his boots and out the door. The flame trail led him 2 miles into the desert, where smoking wreckage jutted from the sand like alien architecture, because that's exactly what it was. Not the twisted metal of any Earth craft, but a seamless, iridescent hull that seemed to pulse with internal light despite the damage. Steam hissed from ruptures along its side, carrying a sweet scent like burnt cinnamon. "Hello," Marcus called out, feeling immediately foolish. If anything had survived this impact, it wouldn't speak English. A section of the craft dissolved rather than opened, and something fell forward onto the sand. Marcus stumbled back, his heart thundering in his chest. The figure was humanoid but wrong in subtle ways that made his vision swim. Limbs slightly too long, joints that bent in additional places, skin that shifted colors like an octopus even as he watched. She lifted her head. Her face had a strange symmetry, features that seemed to rearrange themselves subtly, as if searching for a configuration that would make sense to him. Only her eyes remained constant, large, compound structures that reflected the starlight in prismatic patterns. "Help," the alien said. The word formed not by lips, but by a vibration Marcus felt in his chest rather than heard. Marcus had spent 15 years designing systems meant to find life beyond Earth. Now it lay bleeding some unidentifiable fluid into the desert sand, reaching toward him with long fingers that split at the final joint. "You're hurt," he said unnecessarily, his scientific training overwhelming his fear. "I don't know if I can." The alien's skin flickered with patterns of light that corresponded to her pain. "Repair systems. Failing," came the chest vibration again. "Cannot regenerate." Marcus knelt beside her, careful not to touch her yet. "My name is Marcus. I was an engineer. If you can communicate what you need." The alien's compound eyes focused on him with sudden intensity. A tendril extended from her wrist, not flesh, not mechanical, but something between, and touched his hand. Electric sensation shot up his arm, and he gasped as information flooded his consciousness. Images of cellular structures, energy patterns, atomic configurations unlike anything in human medicine. "Vela," came the thought word, planted directly in his mind. "I am called Vela." Marcus fought the urge to pull away. Something about the connection felt deeply intimate, as if she had reached past his skin into his very essence. Yet there was a desperation in the contact that he couldn't ignore. "I'll help you," he said, the decision made before he fully considered the consequences. "But I need to get you somewhere safe." With trembling hands, he reached out to support her strange form. Her skin temperature fluctuated wildly under his touch, and where they connected, he felt a curious resonance, as if their cells were attempting to communicate. As he helped Vela toward his cabin, the desert night seemed to close around them. Marcus glanced back once at the crashed ship, which had begun to sink into the sand as if dissolving. By morning, there would be no evidence of its existence. "Your world," Vela transmitted weakly as they moved through the darkness, "is not compatible with my systems." "Then we'll find a way to make it compatible," Marcus replied, surprising himself with his determination. The stars overhead seemed to pulse in response, witnesses to a meeting that defied the lonely separateness of species and worlds. In the silence of the desert, something impossible had begun, a connection that would change everything Marcus understood about life, about himself, and about what it meant to truly know another being. For 3 days, Vela's body struggled to adapt. Marcus converted his workshop into an impromptu laboratory, pushing aside half-finished inventions to make space for his extraterrestrial patient. He observed with fascination as her form shifted between states of solidity and something more fluid, her iridescent skin glowing with patterns that seemed to communicate her internal condition. "Your electrical systems," she communicated directly into his mind, her mental voice growing stronger. "They are primitive but useful." Marcus watched in astonishment as hair-thin tendrils extended from Vela's fingertips, seeking out the cables in his workshop. Where they connected, his computer screens flickered with alien symbols and his house lights pulsed in rhythmic sequences. You're interfacing with my tech, he said, both alarmed and fascinated. Does it help? Adaptation came her thought response. Understanding your world through its networks. As she connected with his systems, Marcus felt a corresponding connection forming in his mind. Her consciousness brushed against his, tentative at first, then with growing confidence. Images appeared in his thoughts, a world with 3 moons and vast crystalline cities, beings like Vela moving through structures that seemed impossibly delicate, sensations of flight through atmospheres thick with particles that sparkled like diamond dust. You're home, he whispered. Vela's compound eyes shifted, facets catching the light as she turned toward him. Yes, home is very distant now. That night, Marcus dreamed of stars he'd never seen and woke to find Vela hovering beside his bed, her form partially transparent in the moonlight. He startled, clutching the sheets to his chest. Sorry, she said, using vocalized sounds for the first time, her voice like wind through crystal. Your mind calls when you sleep. You can sense my dreams? We share connection now, she replied, reverting to telepathy. Your consciousness is beautiful, different but harmonious. She extended a slender arm, her fingers now appearing more human-like than they had initially, though still longer, more tapered. When she touched his bare shoulder, a shudder of pleasure rippled through him, not sexual exactly, but deeply intimate. Where their skin met, a warm glow spread, and Marcus felt as if boundaries were dissolving. What is this? He gasped. Neural synchronization, she explained, her thoughts carrying emotions of wonder and curiosity. Your species segregates consciousness within individual bodies. Mine does not. The connection deepened, and Marcus found himself flooded with Vela's sensations, the strange hunger for elemental components his world barely contained, the persistent pain of adaptation, and beneath it all, a profound loneliness that mirrored his own. Instinctively, he reached up to touch her face. Her features shifted beneath his fingertips, becoming more defined, more human, yet still marvelously alien. Her skin felt like silk charged with static electricity. Does this hurt you? He asked, suddenly worried. No, she responded, leaning into his touch. It is healing. You contain elements I need. Her hand moved to his chest, resting over his heart. Marcus felt his pulse quicken, responding to the strange intimacy of her presence. Through their connection, he sensed her analyzing him at a molecular level, but also something more, a growing fascination, an attachment forming. I was a pilot scientist, she explained, her thoughts showing him images of her navigating through space in a vessel that seemed to be partly grown rather than built. Exploring the boundaries of your solar system when my craft intercepted an anomaly. Marcus saw through her memories, the swirling vortex of energy, the desperate attempt to escape it, the terrifying journey through folded space that had brought her to Earth. You didn't mean to come here at all, he realized. No, but perhaps there was purpose in the accident. Her form shifted closer, the boundaries between them blurring further. In the moonlight streaming through his window, their silhouettes merged, his solid human form and her luminescent alien one creating a single shadow on the wall. Marcus felt a longing he couldn't explain, not just physical attraction, though there was an element of that too, but a yearning for the kind of connection Vela's species seemed to take for granted. A union of minds as well as bodies. As if reading his thoughts, and perhaps she was, Vela's form settled into a more consistently humanoid shape. The light patterns across her skin pulsed in time with his heartbeat. I am beginning to understand your form, she said softly, her voice now fully formed. Your biology is fascinating. Her face was inches from his, her compound eyes reflecting his own image back at him in countless tiny facets. When their lips met, his warm and human, hers cool and electric, the connection between them exploded into something transcendent. Every cell in Marcus's body seemed to sing with alien energy, while Vela trembled with the intensity of human emotion. They separated, both breathless in their own ways. Was that a kiss? She asked, the concept foreign but intriguing to her. Yes, Marcus whispered, though I don't think any human has experienced one quite like that before. Outside, dawn was breaking, but in the quiet of Marcus's cabin, something else was awakening, a possibility neither of them had imagined when the stars had fallen 3 nights ago. 2 weeks after Vela's arrival, Marcus awoke to find the kitchen transformed. His appliances had been disassembled, parts floating in midair, suspended by invisible energy fields. At the center of the technological hurricane stood Vela, her body glowing with intense blue light, tendrils of energy extending from her fingertips to manipulate the components. "Morning," he said cautiously. "Redecorating?" Vela turned, her features now consistently humanoid though still unmistakably alien. Her eyes had developed irises, violet rings surrounding pupils that contracted in the morning light, but they retained their multifaceted structure. "Attempting repairs," she explained, her voice melodic but frustrated. "Your technology lacks compatibility." Marcus approached, carefully navigating around floating fragments of his microwave. Over the past weeks, he'd grown accustomed to her alterations of his home, understanding that she was trying to build something that could help stabilize her biological systems. "Let me help," he offered, reaching for her hand. The moment their skin connected, the now familiar rush of shared consciousness washed over him. He'd grown to crave this sensation, the merging of their thoughts, the dissolution of the boundary between self and other. Through their neural link, he understood what she was trying to accomplish with a clarity that words could never achieve. "You need rare earth elements," he said, processing the information flowing from her mind to his. "Compounds that don't occur naturally on your world either." Vela's fingers intertwined with his, her skin temperature rising to match his own, an adaptation she had developed specifically for their contact. "Yes, my repair systems are failing. I can maintain this form, but internal damage remains." Through their connection, Marcus sensed her growing fear, not just of physical deterioration, but of something she was trying to conceal from him. Before he could question it, the sound of an approaching helicopter broke the moment. The pieces of kitchen appliances clattered to the floor as Vela's concentration broke. "Someone is coming," she whispered, her skin rippling with alarm patterns. Marcus rushed to the window. The black helicopter bore no markings, but he recognized the configuration: government, likely military. "They must have detected your energy signature," he said grimly. "We've been careful, but not careful enough." Vela's form became less solid, edges blurring with agitation. "I have put you in danger." "No," Marcus said firmly, taking her hand again. "We're in this together now." The helicopter circled once, then disappeared over the ridge, reconnaissance only, for now. But Marcus knew they would return. The temporary reprieve gave them precious hours at most. That evening, as the desert sun set in a blaze of orange and red, Marcus and Vela sat on the roof of the cabin, watching the stars appear one by one. The vastness of space seemed both to emphasize their differences and diminish them, both of them tiny compared to the universe that had brought them together. "Show me again," Marcus said softly. "You're home." Vela placed her palm against his chest, and the connection between them opened like a flower. This time, she didn't just show him images of her world. She brought him there in a shared mental projection. They stood together on a crystalline cliff overlooking an ocean of liquid that wasn't water, but something that shimmered with consciousness. 3 moons hung in the sky, creating complex tidal patterns that the locals used for navigation and timekeeping. "This is where I lived," she projected, her longing palpable, "before becoming a pilot scientist." In their shared vision, her form was different, more fluid, less defined, moving through environments Marcus could barely comprehend. He saw others of her kind, communicating through patterns of light and shared neural networks that made human language seem hopelessly inadequate. "It's beautiful," Marcus whispered, though in this shared mental space, he wasn't sure if he was speaking aloud or thinking. "But so different." "Yes," she agreed. "Yet here you are, sharing it with me. Your mind shouldn't be capable of this level of connection. Humans are solitary consciousness. Maybe not as solitary as we thought." The vision faded, returning them to the roof of the cabin. The desert night had grown cool, but where their bodies touched, warmth bloomed. Marcus felt the now familiar yearning, the desire to bridge the gap between them completely. "Vela," he said, his voice husky with emotion, "what happens if we try to connect fully?" She looked at him, understanding his meaning immediately through their partial link. "I don't know. No one of my kind has ever attempted full neural synchronization with a human. Is it dangerous?" "Possibly," she admitted. "But I want to try." Under the vast canopy of stars, Vela's form shifted closer. Her hands framed Marcus's face, thumbs tracing the contours of his cheekbones. Where she touched, his skin tingled with electrical energy that seemed to penetrate to his very atoms. Their lips met, and this time neither pulled away. The connection between them expanded exponentially, their consciousness merging in waves of sensation that transcended physical pleasure. Marcus felt his perception splitting. He was himself, feeling the alien coolness of her skin, the strange electricity of her touch, and simultaneously he was Vela, experiencing the unfamiliar density of human form, the intensity of chemical-based emotions, the curious limitation of singular consciousness. Their bodies moved together on the roof, illuminated by starlight and the bioluminescence that rippled across Vela's skin in waves that matched the rhythm of their movements. Physical intimacy enhanced the mental connection, creating feedback loops of pleasure that built upon themselves. Marcus gasped as he felt himself perceiving through compound eyes, sensing electromagnetic fields, tasting radiation in the air, while Vela trembled with the novel intensity of human touch, the overwhelming flood of oxytocin and endorphins, the strange, beautiful limitation of experiencing everything from a single fixed perspective. "Is this?" Marcus tried to speak, but words seemed hopelessly inadequate. "Yes," came her reply, not in words but in feelings, in the melding of their consciousness. "This is us." For precious hours, they existed in a state neither had imagined possible, not quite human, not quite alien, but something wonderfully in between. Their bodies and minds discovered each other in the darkness, creating a temporary bridge between worlds. When dawn broke, they lay entwined, Marcus's chest rising and falling with deep breaths, while Vela's skin pulsed with aftershocks of their connection. In the morning light, they both knew what the helicopter's appearance meant and what decisions now lay before them. "They'll come back," Marcus said unnecessarily. Vela nodded, her expression solemn. "There is another option," she finally admitted. "But it would require sacrifice." The black SUVs appeared on the horizon just after noon, heat mirages making them waver like apparitions. Marcus counted 4 vehicles approaching along the dusty desert road, too many for a friendly visit, exactly right for an extraction operation. "They're coming for you," he said, lowering the binoculars. "How did they even know?" Vela stood beside him on the porch, her form now consistently humanoid but still unmistakably alien. The bioluminescent patterns that rippled beneath her skin had grown more pronounced with stress. "Your government monitors atmospheric disturbances, radiation signatures," she explained. "My arrival created anomalies they couldn't ignore." Inside the cabin, the makeshift device Vela had constructed from Marcus's appliances hummed with unstable energy. After their night of complete connection, she had finally revealed her secret, a theoretical method to return home, or at least to signal her people. "Tell me again how it works," Marcus said, buying time as the vehicles grew closer. Vela placed her hand against his chest, initiating their neural link. Images flowed between them, quantum fields, interspatial folds, concepts for which human science had not yet developed names. "The device creates a temporary bridge," she explained through their connection. "Similar to what brought me here accidentally, but controlled, directed." Marcus absorbed the information through their link, his mind expanding to grasp concepts that should have been beyond human comprehension. "But you need a power source strong enough to stabilize the bridge." Her compound eyes met his, violet irises contracting. "Yes. The power requirement is significant. My generator won't be enough." "No," she agreed, her mental voice tinged with sadness. "It would require bioelectrical energy, a living conductor to channel and focus the quantum field." The implication hung between them, unspoken but understood through their connection. Marcus would have to be that conductor, his human nervous system serving as the biological component in her alien technology. The risk was enormous, potentially fatal. "How long before they reach us?" Vela asked, breaking their mental connection to peer at the approaching vehicles. 20 minutes. Maybe less." Inside, they moved with practiced efficiency, gathering the few personal items Marcus couldn't bear to leave behind. His hands lingered on framed photos of family, old NASA credentials, mementos of a life that now seemed to belong to someone else. "If we run, they'll follow," he said. "They'll never stop looking for you." Vela nodded, her expression solemn. "I know. Which is why you should let them take me." "No." Marcus's response was immediate, visceral. "That's not an option. They are your people, Marcus. And you're." He paused, struggling to define what she had become to him. More than a visitor, more than a lover. Through their neural connection, they had shared consciousness itself, the most intimate bond possible between two sentient beings. Vela stepped closer, placing her palm against his cheek. The connection between them opened again, But this time, she didn't show him scientific concepts or memories of her homeworld. Instead, she shared her feelings, complex emotional patterns that transcended language, conveying her gratitude, her wonder at finding him, and beneath it all, a profound attachment that mirrored his own. "We have choice," she projected. "I can surrender to your authorities, becoming an object of study. I can attempt escape alone, leaving you safe. Or we try the device," Marcus finished. Together. The SUVs were visible now without binoculars, dust clouds rising behind them as they sped along the access road. Less than 10 minutes remained before they would reach the cabin. Marcus led Vela to the workshop where the device waited, a bizarre hybrid of Earth technology and alien engineering. At its center was a space just large enough for a human to stand. "If this works," he asked, "what happens? Do we both go to your world?" Vela's skin flickered with uncertain patterns. "I don't know. The theory suggests a transference of energy, not necessarily matter. It might create a beacon for my people to find me, or it might create a path home. But the effect on you." Marcus understood the unspoken warning. Human physiology wasn't designed for quantum manipulation. Best case scenario, pain. Worst case, death. Middle ground, permanent alteration of his cellular structure in ways neither of them could predict. Outside, engines grew louder. Car doors slammed. Male voices called out commands. With hands that trembled only slightly, Marcus removed his shirt and stepped into the center of the device. Metal components cool against his skin, he extended his arms, palms up in offering. "How do we start?" he asked. Vela moved to stand before him, her luminescent skin pulsing with anticipation and fear. "Like this," she projected, leaning forward to press her forehead against his. The neural connection exploded into something far beyond their previous experiences. Marcus felt his consciousness stretching, expanding, encompassing circuits and wires and quantum fields. Vela's mind entwined with his, guiding him through processes no human had ever attempted. Around them, the device hummed to life, components spinning, energy building. The workshop filled with light that seemed to bend around impossible angles. Through their connection, Marcus felt Vela's determination, her focus, her desperate hope, and beneath it all, something deeper. Love, not as humans understood it, but no less real for being alien. Pain lanced through Marcus as the energy built, his nervous system becoming a conduit for forces it was never designed to channel. He gritted his teeth, clinging to consciousness as his vision filled with fractals of light. The workshop door splintered inward. Men in tactical gear poured through the opening, weapons raised, voices shouting orders that seemed to come from another dimension. "Don't let go," Marcus gasped, feeling the connection wavering as Vela's attention split. She clutched him tighter, their bodies pressed together at the center of the swirling energy. "I won't," she promised, her mental voice fierce with determination. The air crackled with ozone. Light bent and folded around them in impossible geometries. Marcus heard shouting, felt the vibration of footsteps approaching, saw the muzzle of a weapon rising toward them. Then everything imploded into a single point of blinding light. Marcus awoke to the sensation of floating. Not in water, not in air, but in something that felt like both and neither, a medium that supported his body while somehow flowing through it. He opened his eyes to an impossible sight. The workshop, his cabin, the desert all gone. In their place was a vast, shifting landscape of light and shadow. Crystal formations rose like mountains around him, their surfaces refracting light in patterns too complex for human eyes to fully process. Above, 3 moons hung in a sky the color of amethyst, casting multiple shadows that moved in strange synchronicity. "Vela's world," he whispered, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. Both vocalized and somehow telepathically projected at once. "Not exactly," came a response that was simultaneously beside him and within him. He turned to find Vela, but not as he had known her. Her form was more fluid now, less bound by physical constraints, glowing with internal light that pulsed in complex patterns. Most startling were her eyes, still compound and multifaceted, but now flecked with human-like irises of deep brown. "What happened? Where are we?" Marcus asked, looking down at himself. His body appeared solid but was outlined with a subtle luminescence that hadn't been there before. Between, Vela's thought came directly into his mind. "Not my world, not yours. Something new." Marcus tried to understand, reaching for their neural connection out of habit. The link opened instantly, stronger than ever before, and through it flowed not just thoughts but understanding. The device had worked. but not as either of them had expected. Instead of creating a path to Vela's world or a beacon for her people, it had somehow folded space itself, creating a pocket reality, a bridge between dimensions. "The men who came for you cannot reach us here," she assured him. "This place exists in a fold between conventional dimensions." Through their connection, Marcus sensed something else, a profound change in himself. The energy channeled through his nervous system had altered him at a fundamental level. Not human anymore, not fully alien either, but a hybrid of both. "Am I like you now?" he asked, extending his hand. Where his fingers moved, trails of light followed, similar to Vela's bioluminescence but with a pattern uniquely his own. "In some ways," she confirmed, moving closer. "The transfer changed us both. I have become partially human, while you have become partially something else." Their hands met, fingers intertwining, and the connection between them bloomed into something even more profound than before. No barriers remained, neither physical nor mental. Their consciousness flowed together seamlessly, yet they remained distinct individuals, like two currents in the same river. "Can we go back?" Marcus asked, thinking of Earth, of the life he had left behind. "I believe so," Vela projected, sharing images of quantum pathways that now seemed perfectly comprehensible to his transformed mind. "This place we've created serves as a junction point. From here, we could potentially reach either world, or both." The realization dawned slowly. A permanent connection between your civilization and mine. Vela's form pulsed with excitement, the light patterns rippling through her in waves of joy. "Yes, not just for us, but for everyone. A bridge between species that evolved galaxies apart." Marcus understood the implications immediately. Not just their personal story, but something much larger, first contact on a civilizational scale, cultural exchange beyond anything humanity had imagined. And they would be the pioneers, the translators, uniquely equipped to move between worlds. "How do we start?" he asked. In answer, Vela drew him deeper into their pocket dimension. As they moved, the crystalline landscape responded to their presence, reshaping itself according to their needs and thoughts. Matter here was responsive to consciousness in ways that defied Earth physics. "First, we must stabilize this junction," she explained. "Then, we can create controlled openings to both worlds." Together, they began to work. Their transformed minds could manipulate the quantum fabric of their new reality directly, building structures that were part technology, part grown crystal, part thought form. As they worked, the connection between them deepened further still. In moments of rest, they explored each other in this new state of being. Physical intimacy took on dimensions Marcus could never have imagined as a purely human man, sensations that transcended conventional nerves and pleasure centers, communion that made their previous connections seem shallow by comparison. Their bodies, part solid, part energy, merged and separated in rhythmic pulses that synchronized with the quantum fluctuations around them. "Is this what it's like for your people?" Marcus asked during one such moment of blissful connection, their consciousnesses flowing together like liquid light. "Similar, but different," Vela replied, her thoughts caressing his. "My people connect, but not like this. What we have created is unique in the universe." Time moved strangely in their pocket dimension. What felt like weeks might have been days or months in conventional reality. Eventually, their work neared completion, a stable junction point with controlled portals to both worlds. "It's time to try," Marcus said, standing before the portal that shimmered with Earth frequencies. Beside it, another portal resonated with the quantum signature of Vela's homeworld. They stood together, hand in hand, their transformed bodies glowing with shared energy. Through their connection, Marcus felt Vela's nervousness, her hope, her love, emotions that transcended species boundaries. Together, she affirmed, squeezing his hand. They stepped through the Earth portal first, materializing in the desert beside Marcus's cabin. Time had passed, dust covered everything, and his forgotten possessions lay scattered where the government agents had searched and eventually abandoned the site. "How long have we been gone?" Marcus wondered, his voice strange to his ears after so long communicating telepathically. A quick check of his old computer systems, still functional despite months of neglect, provided the answer. 6 months had passed on Earth. They stayed only briefly, gathering supplies and information. Marcus's transformation was less visible here, his luminescence dimmed in Earth's physics, though his connection to Vela remained undiminished. They could pass for human, albeit unusual humans, when they chose to. The return journey through the portal brought them back to their junction point. and from there, they ventured through the second portal, to Vela's world. The crystalline cities of her homeworld spread before them, more magnificent than any mental image could have conveyed. Beings like Vela, but untransformed, moved through structures that defied Earth architecture. Their arrival caused immediate sensation, not just Vela's return, but her return with a transformed human companion. Through their connection, Marcus experienced the cascading ripples of communication spreading outward. Curiosity, wonder, cautious welcome. Vela's people had theoretical knowledge of other intelligent species, but had never made direct contact. They wished to connect with you, Vela explained. To understand. Marcus nodded, ready for this moment they had prepared for. As representatives from Vela's scientific community approached, he and Vela stood together, their transformed bodies serving as living bridges between worlds. Show them, he said softly. Show them everything. Vela extended her consciousness, and Marcus joined his with hers. Together, they opened the connection, not as deep as what they shared with each other, but enough to convey understanding, to begin the conversation between species. In that moment of first true contact, as minds touched across the vast gulf of evolutionary difference, Marcus understood the true purpose of their transformation. Not just for themselves, not just for love, but for something greater, the beginning of a relationship between civilizations that might have otherwise remained forever separate. Later, in the privacy of their junction dimension, Marcus and Vela lay entwined in their perfect union of energy and matter. The future stretched before them, years of travel between worlds, of serving as ambassadors and translators, of building understanding between species that had never imagined each other's existence. Was it worth it? Vela asked, rare uncertainty coloring her thoughts. Giving up your purely human existence? Marcus smiled, watching the light patterns that flowed between their joined hands, his golden-hued, hers silver-blue, creating intricate patterns where they merged. I was alone before, he said simply. Now I'm connected to you, to two worlds, to possibilities I never imagined. Their bodies shifted closer, consciousness merging once more in that perfect union they had discovered. Above them, the crystal structures of their created dimension refracted light in patterns that mimicked the quantum dance of their joined souls, neither human nor alien, but something wonderfully new. In the space between worlds, they had found not just each other, but a future greater than either could have imagined alone. A bridge of understanding built from the most powerful force in any universe. Love that transcended the very boundaries of form and consciousness itself. The end.